appreciation to all of you for being here, and to all of the people who have preceded me for firing up the crowd, speaking the truth, laying out what we have to do here. First, I'd like to say, I don't know how many of you know that Jerry Connell is 2 days out of surgery. He had hernia surgery, and I've had that before. I know what that does to you, and it was a tremendous gesture for him to come here and be with us this morning. You set the bar pretty high. I think I'm going to have to ask you to be a surrogate in appropriate places to carry that particular argument forward. Judy and Annie, every time I have to follow my fellow candidates here, I wonder if I'm about 5 cups of coffee behind, maybe 2 Red Bulls. I cannot compete with that energy level. I can't do it. I have tremendous respect for what they're doing. And actually, I wasn't going to start on this point, but since Jim mentioned it, I think I would like to put an addendum on what he was saying about the aftermath of Katrina and what it really says about this administration and our country. Because a lot of people think that I got into this purely because of the frustration I was having over our national security leadership, and believe me, that was a big part of it. But the final straw for me really was watching the incompetence and the indifference after Katrina. My wife is from New Orleans, and I watched her family going through this experience, and I had long memories of other disasters where we had competent leadership that was able to help people in this kind of situation. One of the things I was thinking about, actually, as this was going on, was in 1975, when South Vietnam fell, our country was able to take 500,000 people out of the ocean in 2 weeks. Much more complicated than the situation that we faced in Katrina. We processed them into refugee camps, into transition points, and then were able to assimilate them into communities where they could be taken care of. When I was watching people herded into Astrodomes and Metrodomes or being left on rooftops, I was thinking about that period, because with the right leadership from the top, we had Fort Polk, Louisiana, which is about halfway between New Orleans and Houston, 330 square miles, where we could have taken a lot of these FEMA trailers that are still sitting in places like Little Rock and AP Hill right now, who never were put all the way into a place where people could be helped. We could have set up a similar processing point, helped a lot of people, and no one was doing it. No one was thinking that way. As Jim Moran was pointing out, there was a lot of profit to be had in the aftermath of Katrina, and in my view, not a lot of humanitarian thought coming out of the top of this administration. And here we are a year later. And New Orleans has been allowed to just gestate, just to sit there without the right kind of leadership. And I keep thinking, one of the truths of this country, you can see it over and over again, is if the American people collectively come together and want to solve a problem with the right leadership from the top, there's no problem we can't solve. None. Remember the Marshall Plan, where we helped rebuild Europe after World War II. People are talking about a Marshall Plan for Lebanon. People are talking about putting hundreds of billions of dollars into rebuilding Iraq. We have got to rebuild the infrastructure of the United States, and we need to start in Washington. You know, several people have mentioned the 1974 elections, and actually on my way over here this morning I was thinking about that also, because I was trying to figure out if there was a time period in my life, my adult life, where the stakes were as high and where the potential for having a transformation in American government also was as serious. And for those of you who remember that period, coming into those 1974 elections, what we had was a nation that was basically exhausted, and where the old ways of looking at issues were all being contested. People wanted something new, they wanted something different, and they stepped forward and they took a huge risk. And that's where we are today. The old labels just don't apply anymore, not in the same way that they have. We're in a sea change. There are a lot of people who have not had strong party affiliations for more than 20 years who are looking for answers. And that is not only the challenge that we have, that's the opportunity that we have. And I strongly believe that if we can all come together and move forward here, we can dramatically change the political system, not only for this year, but in the We have a situation in our foreign policy that is as bad as anything that I've ever seen. It's not simply Iraq. This administration has sort of had the reverse Midas touch. Every single foreign policy issue is touched and is screwed up. I was talking about how during the run into Gulf War I had testified in the Nunn hearings. Senator Sam Nunn had held a series of hearings about the implications of moving into Kuwait. But the elephant in the bedroom during those hearings was, would we go from Kuwait into Baghdad? The same people who basically got us into Baghdad this time were pushing going into Baghdad in 1990. And I testified in 1990 that if we were to seriously degrade Iraq as a nation, the end result would be to empower Syria and Iran. Senator Allen's response basically was, yeah, well, Jim Webb was even opposed to Gulf War I. Even the French supported Gulf War I. My Marine son was home the next weekend. He's much better at this than I am. He said, Dad, you fought in Vietnam. George Allen didn't fight in Vietnam. Even the French fought in Vietnam. We need new eyes. I keep thinking of a quote that General Dwight Eisenhower made during the darkest days of the Korean War. You know, you have a period here where military officers, ironically, the same qualified military officers who were giving private advice about this war, now come out to say what they were warning about and are criticized as if the military people aren't supposed to have a brain and aren't supposed to talk to the media. General Dwight Eisenhower was saying during the darkest days of the Korean War, the people who allowed this disaster to occur are not the people who are going to be able to repair it. That is where we are today. This administration and the people like George